Welcome back to Villain Review. It's October, and I have two of my biggest and best villain reviews this month. This one, and then Michael Myers coming out on the 28th. I'll take the characters, analyze them by motive, character, best scenes, and more. Give them a score, 1 out of 10. Rose the Hat is a character who was asked to do the impossible, and that's follow up Jack Torrance. One of the best villains in horror, just movies in general. For the sake of clarity, I'm only going to be talking about the version from the film, as there's quite a few differences in the novel. I want to just pick one version. When I reviewed Jack, I gave him a really high score, one of my highest scores to date. But does Rose hold her own as the other big villain in the world of The Shining? Let's find out.
Eat well, stay young, live long.
In the world of The Shining, certain individuals have clairvoyant abilities known as, of course, the title of the film, the ability to doctor sleep. No, it's called The Shining, and little boy Danny Torrance has this ability in the first film, but now he's a grown boy. Having this gift, of course, has its upsides, but sometimes it sucks. For example, today's villain eats these chumps for breakfast. Literally. Leading a group called the True Knot, Rose uses her psychic abilities to track down the kids who shine, no diddy, kill them, and consume their mist, almost like a life force that keeps Rose and her followers alive. Pretty much forever, or as long as the supply lasts. But unfortunately for Rose, the world doesn't shine like it used to. I don't know, it's something in the air. These shining individuals becoming more and more rare. What's the solution? So there's this girl, Abra's her name, and she's the freaking Miss Jack. She shines so much, it's the kind of shine Childish Gambino writes songs about. And Rose the Hat decides, hey, we can capture this girl, turn her into a little shining cow, a little shiny Pokemon, if you will. Danny Torrance says, hello there, that's a little girl, not a cow, you idiots. And thus plot ensues. At the end of the day, the True Knot's real goal is to keep their eternal life, but what makes Rose in particular so good is that we see that goal evolve. It's kind of rare for us to see a villain who's just past their prime. When we meet the Knot in the film, their numbers and supplies are dwindling, and a new, younger, stronger character has just popped up. It's a fight for power and eternal life, but also for ego and kind of relevance. Rose feeling threatened by Abra for just how powerful she is. Like bringing a baseball bat to an axe fight. It's one of the things that makes her such a well-written character, the fact that her motive and characteristics all kind of bleed and evolve as the film goes on. Like the Rose we have at the beginning of this film, very different from the Rose we have at the end. At the start, we see what she's used to, almost like a previously on Rose the Hat, a version that doesn't struggle, that's confident in her abilities and just takes advantage of these kids without any resistance, no diddy. But by the end, after we see all that goes horribly wrong for her in this movie, she has to put up that front, but we see deep down she's a little scared. She's pretty scared of Abra. I'll touch on it later, but that's one of the things this movie does really well. It feels like a game of tug of war. Her motive of wanting to survive and eternal life, that's nothing new or particularly innovative, but fighting for relevance, for the right to still convince, if only her, that she's the top dog, she's the top shiner, that's amazing.
Sweetie, I'm not the last, far from it. I'm just the prettiest.
One of the main traits the movie highlights in Rose is the fact she's attractive. Sometimes movies cast attractive actors in villain roles and then just kind of sweep it under the rug, but this movie wants to talk about it. They want to make it very clear that she's attractive. Sometimes I feel like the movie's just poking me every once in a while, being like, hey, she's attractive, right? Right? For many years, I pondered this question, hoping to unlock the true answer. Maybe because the original author Stephen King and my boy Mikey Flynn are way too talented to make this unintentional. To understand why they cast Rebecca Ferguson and not my gross neighbor Cindy, we have to talk about Jack Torrance. I really hope you're not watching this, Cindy. Because keep in mind, Rose is a character who has to compete with Jack and the legacy of the Overlook. That's just a fact. And the evil of Jack is interesting because yeah, the naughty hotel affects him to make him do bad things, but in the movie, Jack's never really a great guy. Even if you know nothing about this movie, I'm talking, Men in Black, straight, memory wipe, gotcha. They make that clear. Rose is the complete opposite. Pretty privilege is a very real thing. We're reminded of this whenever girls start to swoon over, that attractive criminal who, blew up an orphanage or something like that and robbed a 7-Eleven with a gummy worm. Attractive people can't always be trusted. We like looking at them, but sometimes we don't like looking at their soul because they're gross. And sometimes they use it as a weapon. Like if you were this little girl right, and you saw a big fat sweaty dude singing on a log, eating flowers and a top hat, get the fuck out of there. But Rebecca Ferguson, let's hear her out. I don't care that she's munching down on flowers like Fritos, I'm sticking around. It also strikes a lot when she says she's the prettiest at the end, because it's important we hear her say it. Because Rose has an ego bigger than her hat, and that hat's massive. No matter how attractive you are, eventually you're going to be replaced as the most attractive, and that transition phase is difficult, and that again plays into Rose as a character. She sees herself as all of these things, the prettiest, the smartest, the strongest. She sees herself as the best. So when things start to crumble, they fall so much further. As a person though, she's absolutely brutal. She means well in the protection of her people because that's a big time goal for her. But you idiots, I feel about as bad for the True Knot as I do people who look up movie plots online. Mainly because, let's think about this, their whole goal is to kill children. While you're snacking on candy bars for a sweet treat, they're eating children and torturing them too. You know, a little torture for dessert. It's very Pennywise-esque, which is funny because they're both written by the same dude. I need children to survive, and their fear makes them tastier. Mr. King, do you need help, my guy? What do you have against kids? Did one poop on your lawn or something? Like, well, good lord. Let's talk about one of the big themes of this film, and that's addiction. We see in Danny, Rose, and the ghost of Jack, and I'm pretty sure a lot of it stems from the writer-director Mike Flanagan going sober. Good for you, Mr. Flanagan. In the film, Danny becomes an alcoholic to suppress his abilities to shine, but eventually recovers and goes sober through an Alcoholics Anonymous group. And dude, one of the best buddies we've ever seen in a horror movie. This guy's such a W. One of the big things I got from this movie is the dangers of addiction. When we first meet Danny, he's in a pretty rough spot, but through recovering, he looks a lot healthier and happier and just genuinely seems to be in a way better spot in his life. This is the good example of dealing with alcoholism. Rose is the bad one. Obviously, Rose isn't an alcoholic, but she still has an addiction to the steam. You could argue this is a necessity for her to survive, but I also think that's probably what it feels like to struggle with alcoholism, to feel like you need this thing to live. I want to stress that I've never struggled with alcohol addiction, so I can't speak from a personal standpoint. It's all just speculation, but the connection is pretty clear to me. Even that case that Rose keeps the steam canisters in, it looks like a nice wine or whiskey cabinet. I mean, it's pretty on the nose. Where Danny turns away from his addiction, Rose leans into it. They have this addiction and they feel the only way to deal with it is to feed into it. There's a promise of short-term happiness and good feelings for sure, but in the end, it's only a bad thing. A big scene is where Ghost Jack offers Danny a drink claiming it's life's medicine to make all the bad feel better. Danny refuses it because of course he does, he's a G, but Rose and the other members accept it. Not literally, but they accept that offer of, you know, living a long time, of addiction. The steam is the medicine to their life's problems, to the fear of death, but in the end, taking the easy way out and leaning into the addiction is what causes their downfall. It's why when comparing our two addicts at the start of the film, the one who thrives is the one who gives it up, and the one who declines is the one who gives in. Love this connection between the two characters, and it's a very real issue for a lot of people. Addiction is bad, 10 out of 10 times, and I love a story that has something to say about it.
My friends, my very, very best friends, they just call me Rose the Hat.
Rose has a ton of screen time, which is obviously good in helping us understand her and just fleshing her out. No scenes really feel wasted either, which I like, each one adding or emphasizing something different about a character. That first scene, dude, hot damn, what a scene. She draws that girl in with this charismatic front, but also kind of struggles to keep it up when she has her. She can't help but be a little sus, be a little creepy, and it perfectly sets up Rose as well as the True Knot. Good lord, let's talk about the baseball boy. This scene, one of the most difficult scenes to watch in a horror movie probably ever, not because it's scary, but because Jacob Tremblay is so freaking good, it's awful. We have to watch this kid pretty much beg for his life as the True Knot torture and kill him. Damn dude, these guys suck. Big hype for that finale at the end. It's perfect fan service, it's a great conclusion, and another thing I like about it is how it makes The Shining better. Rose is powerful, but the Overlook, that's a whole other beast. And the fact she's overwhelmed by it so quickly is awesome. It further shows just how helpless Jack was in the first film against the hotel himself. I love when a sequel can retroactively make that first film better better without stepping on its toes or changing things up too much. All of these scenes do a great job to show just how twisted and evil she is, but also, like I said, Rebecca Ferguson puts up that charismatic front. She cares about her people. Such a complex character.
Are you gonna hurt me?
Rose the Hat did about as good as any villain could have, following up Jack Torrance from The Shining. Rebecca Ferguson is great. She's a very interesting character as far as, you know, her love for her people, but also her love for killing and eating children, essentially. That's not good. The performance is great. The parallel to Danny and his struggle with alcoholism, the struggle with addiction in general, I absolutely love it. She has some cool powers, and in general, it's just a great piece of a character on the decline, falling out of her prime, due in large part to her addiction to steam. I think she's a great character. I'm gonna give her an 8.5.
But these are special.
Honey, it's the special ones that taste best.
Thanks so much for watching. I make new villain reviews all the freaking time. Hit subscribe. I got another one coming out next week. It's gonna be great. I'll talk to you later.